Walter. We have Walter, who is a state representative from Minnesota, HD30A. What's going on, Walter?
How y'all doing? I'm just hanging out. It's late at night. I'm in the final week of a very contentious legislative session and just having a good time. You mentioned a phrase that caught my attention, which is popular sovereignty. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why that phrase catches my attention is because that was quite literally the concept that was advocated by Stephen Douglas in the historically famous Douglas Lincoln debates. And what he was advocating for was slavery, quite literally. He was saying that if U.S. territories that want to expand and want to establish themselves, if they want to vote as the people that other human beings are less than, then they probably ought to be able to because they have popular sovereignty. And
Okay.
so I guess what I'm wondering is, like, is your conception of that out of sync with that historical analogy, or are you talking
I
about
mean, I,
something
I think
completely
it
different?
very, I mean, the notion of popular sovereignty definitely does not originate in that. That seems like an opportunistic use of an Enlightenment concept at the time, for the purposes of advancing the interests of the planter class. So definitely not. For example, I'll give you an example of what I think, is a form of popular sovereignty. The popular sovereignty of the Palestinian people in Gaza who are fighting for that against occupation. It's actually something I think is similar to when the American people were fighting the occupation of the British. You know, that's really where you see popular sovereignty try to assert itself.
I mean, okay, I'll take that for granted. My question is,
I mean,
do you
why do you got to
legit?
take it for granted? Do you not agree with it, or
No, I don't,
why not?
because the people of Hamas
Uh
live,
huh.
want to destroy the Jews.
Why would they
Like the
want to
American,
destroy? Why would they want to destroy the Jews?
is there any reason that could possibly be legitimate?
No, I'm just it's really weird. Like you're saying, oh, they want to destroy the Jews. Like where? How? Based on what? What could
The river,
possibly be the reason?
the
How
river
could
to the sea, the river to the sea. That whole concept is obviously intended to convey the sense that we should engage in genocide against
why?
the Jewish
How?
people
How?
in that area.
How is it genocide to demand a one state that doesn't exclude all non-Jewish people by definition?
The, the state of Israel literally does not exclude anybody. There are
Well,
Arab people who live in Israel.
so can can a majority of the so-called country of Israel be non-Jewish ethnically according to their racial conception of Judaism, which is actually against the Torah and against the Jewish religion?
Are you suggesting that the state of Israel is, discriminates against who can be part of their country as long as they're peaceful?
They literally don't allow anyone to become citizens except people that have blood quantums that come. It's like literally out of Nazi Germany, where you have to have blood quantums of the right race in order to be a citizen. You could literally be a guy living in New Zealand, and if you have the right blood quantum, they'll open the door for you. Welcome, you are the citizen. Israel claims to be the state of all Jews in the world based on a racial notion of Judaism. And it defines that state based on that. And, you could see why that would upset the people who were like, already living there. Kind of like
Well, why do
basically
they?
saying,
What that being the case? Why do they accept and grant rights to people who are not Jewish?
because they anticipated those people will always be a minority. If there was a right of return for the Palestinians who were expelled in 47, 48, then that would no longer be the case. So, would they tolerate a non-Jewish majority? Is that even
Would would
possible for a so-called Jewish state?
would any country tolerate being taken over by people who are not
So,
associated with the nation?
so it's kind of like, do you support apartheid South Africa? Because that was their same reasoning, that we can't let black people have voting rights, or else they're going to take over our white nation.
Well, absolutely not. I mean, but that's
What's the
not the same
difference?
thing at all.
Why not? Why not?
Because the Jewish nation in Israel, like the Jews have been historically persecuted for thousands of years. Like there's
Why
been no place
why is
they
that
can go.
why is that the problem of Palestinians? What do they have to do with that?
The nation of Israel is historically belongs to the Jews. I mean, they've been there for thousands of years, and there's no
All right, what
historical
okay,
claim.
where you said you're in Minnesota? What land
Yeah.
what people does that land historically belong to?
Well, I mean, I pay my mortgage and I pay my property
All
taxes,
right,
so it belongs to
so
me.
just paying mortgage and property. We went from they're allowed to go and steal all this land because they had ancestors that were there thousands of years ago, to paying mortgage and property tax. What is the what legitimizes a people to just steal land, if it's not,
They didn't. They didn't steal land.
well,
Like
that's really what they did. And they're still
anybody
doing
who
it.
wants. No, listen, brother. Anybody who wants to live in Israel without killing people can do so.
That's not true. If you're Jewish, yeah, according to how they define it. But if you're non-Jewish, you can't. You unless you were granted the right a long time ago. You can I can't go there. Can I go there? I can't.
I would love to
Are you Jewish?
have. No, sir.
Even
I would
you
love to
can't.
have evidence of what you're claiming.
Even you can't go.
Okay,
Why are you
fair enough.
defending? Why are you defending Israel? They don't even want you in because according to them, you're not racially allowed.
I don't think that's true.
It
I think I
is.
can go there tomorrow.
Well, not as a citizen.
Well, if you can provide me with evidence of that, that would be significant.
They're not going to let you in if you're not Jewish, according to them. It's
So,
not
I
going to
mean,
happen.
on what basis? So, on what basis does any nation have a right to determine who comes in, who can't
I
come
don't know,
in?
but in Israel, it's based on race. That's the
All
problem.
right. What about the United States? Did we get to determine?
Not on race.
Did we get to determine based? Like, what do you think about when Trump in his first term said that people who are coming from predominantly terrorist oriented nations should not be in the United States? Is that a bad thing?
Again, we're talking about race here. The in so-called Israel, it's a Jewish state for the Jewish people, which is a racial concept to them, to the Zionists. Um, if the U.S. started, having racial laws, I think that would be pretty concerning.
Of course it would. I'd be the first one to object to
So
it
why
as
don't you
the.
object to it in Israel, where it's a racial apartheid state?
I don't believe you. If you could prove that to me, I would probably change my tune, but I don't believe you.
So, do you think it's a form of discrimination that if you have a certain blood quantum of Jewish, you can be a citizen, but if you're non-Jewish, you barely have any chance of that?
I mean, so the question that you're asking could just as easily be applied to any of the tribal nations that we have here in the United States of America. So, I have some native blood in me somewhere deep down. My wife probably has more. My her grandmother is a elder in the
But the
Chippewa
tribal
tribe of
nations are
the.
literally defined by lineage. They're not full-blown ethno-states.
Of
You can't
course they are.
claim to
Of
have
course they are.
lineage from a
No,
group
no,
if you
no.
don't.
Literally, of course they are. Like literally, you have to prove that you are racially aligned
No, you
with
just
their
have to
lineage
prove
in
that
order
you
to be
have
citizens.
you have descent from but that's like a tribal identity. That's not an ethno-state.
Okay. What's the difference between that one you're talking about in Israel?
Because Israel is a full-blown ethno-state that has a law of return.
So is literally every tribal nation in the United States of America.
They're not ethno-states. They
Checkmate.
don't actually have real
Checkmate.
sovereignty. They don't have
Checkmate.
sovereignty, Walter. There's no checkmate. They don't have sovereignty. Plus, you're missing
Of
like a
course
really
they do.
you're
What are you kidding me? You're telling me that the tribal nations of the United States of America don't have sovereignty? They would all object to that pretty
no, they don't.
aggressively.
Well, I don't care if they would object. It's a fact that they don't have sovereignty.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else
They
to
can't
talk to you
build
about
nuclear
because
weapons. They
look,
can't have their own army. They can't have their own anything. It's not sovereignty.
okay, all right. So apparently sovereignty is based upon whether or not you can build nuclear weapons. This has been a very entertaining conversation.
Literally, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Literally.
You lost it. I appreciate it.
Literally. That's literally it.
Okay. Enjoy that. Have a good night, man.
Well, why do you love racism?
That's a ridiculous question to ask to a
Hitler,
half-black.
Walter? Why do you love Hitler?
That is a ridiculous question to ask
Hitler?
to a half.
Just answer it.
I'm not going to accept your stupid premise, you fucking retard. I'm a half-black, half-white man.
Yeah, a guy who loves Hitler. Why do you love Hitler, Walter?
I don't, dipshit.
It seems like you do.
And no matter how many times you say it, is not going to make it true.
So you support Hamas. So you support Hamas.
No, you support Hamas.
So if you don't,
that's how we started out. Is you supporting Hamas?
You're the biggest Hitler lover.
Okay. Oh my God, you're hilarious, dude.
No,
I love you.
I'm not laughing.
Have a good time. Have a good time.
Why do you love Hitler? Why do you love the racial laws?
Enjoy yourself, dipshit.
Why do you love Hitler's racial laws and worldview? That's all I'm asking. Oh, he left. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll never know why he loves Hitler.